breast conservation surgery. So early breast cancer, as we know from the National Cancer Institute, includes ductal carcinoma in situ, along with invasive carcinomas, TNM stage 1 to stage 3A, that is T3N2N0. So I start my discussion with this randomized controlled trial published in New England Journal of Medicine, 2002. And the study title is 20-year follow-up of a randomized trial comparing total mastectomy, lumpectomy, and lumpectomy plus irradiation for the treatment of invasive breast cancer. They studied 1851 women, 4 centimeter or less tumor, either positive or negative axillary lymph node, and they randomized them to either lumpectomy or mastectomy or lumpectomy plus irradiation. So they found that in a 20-year follow-up result, they found approximately 25% improvement in local regional recurrence rate when radiation was added to lumpectomy. However, they did not find any difference in overall survival or disease-free survival or distant disease-free survival. So this trial established that radiotherapy improves local control after lumpectomy. Now, this review of the randomized trials from early breast cancer trialist group, collaborative group. So they randomized 78 randomized trials. They reviewed 78 randomized trials, and that included 42,000 women with early breast cancer. And they reviewed 23,500 women for radiotherapy versus no radiotherapy after surgery. So they
Dulal,
found a 15-year breast cancer
Dulal,
yes,
your voice is cracking and your slides are minimized. You have to make a full screen this thing. It's not visible clearly. People are writing.
Okay.
And voice is cracking.
Okay. Okay. Okay, ma'am. Now voice is okay. Voice is audible now.
Yes.
Am I audible now?
Now it's okay.
Okay. And for the full screen option. So it's full screen now, ma'am. Hello, am I audible?
Your voice is cracking.
Okay.
Maybe you can remove your headphones and can directly speak.
Okay. That will. So am I audible now?
Yeah, better.
Okay. So we were at this slide. So I was talking about this review of 78 randomized trials. They reviewed 23,500 women for radiotherapy versus no radiotherapy after surgery, and they found a 15-year breast cancer mortality rates improved by 5% with addition of radiotherapy. So they concluded that if we can avoid 4 local recurrences, then we can prevent 1 breast cancer death in 15. So coming to the breast conservation therapy. So breast conservation therapy includes breast conservation surgery, that is lumpectomy plus axillary clear, and followed by radiotherapy. So what are the indications? Indications of breast conservation therapy, as we know, is 4 centimeter or less tumor size, monocentric tumor, because in a multicentric tumor we have to go for mastectomy, and there should not be any radiological evidence of extensive intraductal spread. If it is there, then we have to go for the mastectomy. So for whole breast radiotherapy after the breast conservation surgery, we have to position the patient. So we can position the patient either supine or prone. So in supine, most of the patients where patient lies in the couch with supine position, arms abducted and face turned to contralateral side. So we can use a breastboard with the arm set for the positioning, and breastboard will keep the chest wall parallel to the couch. And we can also use the immobilization devices like plastic cast, thermoplastic cast, or backlog or alpha cradle. So now in the prone position, we have to use this prone breastboard. And in this prone breastboard, there is an aperture where the breast which has to be treated has to hang freely from this aperture. And there is a platform which actually displaces the contralateral breast laterally and posteriorly. So we have to see that the breast should hang evenly from this aperture. And this prone breastboard, with the use of this prone breastboard, it is seen that in the tangential, if we treat with the tangential fields, then radiation dose to the heart, lung, and contralateral breast minimizes. But the long-term data regarding outcome and the cosmesis is still awaited. So regarding the simulation and simulation, so we have to put radio opaque wires upon the superior, inferior, lateral, and medial extent of the ipsilateral breast, which has to be treated in supine position, and localizing tattoos or tape or marker placed on the skin to denote the setup reference points and for planning and pre-treatment positioning. And in case of prone position, radio opaque marker can be placed on the center of the breast, as shown in this picture. That is useful for isocentered definition and reproducibility during the treatment in prone position. So now coming to motion management. So in breast radiotherapy, we have to there are shifting and motions due to breathing motions and cardiac motions, apart from day-to-day setup variations. So for this, we can see that if we can hold the breath, and that will put our heart out of the tangential fields, and that will reduce the heart doses. So we know from the study by Darby et al. Published in New England Journal of Medicine 2013, that if we can reduce the mean heart dose by 1 gray, then we can prevent 7.6% of the increased risk of the major coronary events in 20 years time. So for motion management, either we can do it by imaging, and that is 4D CT, where we have to take CT in all the phases of respiration, and then we have to draw the tumor in all the phases, and then we can generate an ITP for the range of motion for the tumor. And or we can do it by breathing control, like in active breathing control, ABC method, or in active breath hold, or deep inspiratory breath hold technique. Or we can do this motion management by tracking a surrogate put in the surface of the patient's body, and by surface monitoring we can do gated radiotherapy. So I will not go in much detail of these motion management techniques, but these are the motion management techniques that we can take for breast radiotherapy. So now coming to the guidelines of the contouring guidelines for whole breast radiotherapy. I will not go into the detail of conventional tangential fields and the field matching and all that were beautifully covered by Dr. Rohini ma'am in a previous lecture. So I will directly go to the contouring guidelines of whole breast radiotherapy. So first we have this RTOG guideline, that is a evidence-based expert consensus guideline, and that is mainly bone and muscle landmark based, and it is applicable for both the early and locally advanced breast cancer. Now we have this European Society of Radiotherapy and Oncology (ESTRO) guideline, which is a consensus from which is based on previous multiple guidelines, and it is a basal-based guideline, and it is mainly designed for early stage breast cancer. And we have other two guidelines like RADCOMP guideline, which is a trial version of RTOG developed for a phase 3 trial comparing photon and proton to treat breast cancer where regional node irradiation is to be done. And the fourth is the PET Labrador guideline that is developed for the trans-transplantation oncology TROG trial that examines the use of PET and MRI to determine the extent of surgery and radiation for locally advanced breast cancer. So I will discuss the RTOG guideline and ISRO guideline in detail. So for whole breast radiotherapy, we have ISRO guideline and RTOG guideline. And regarding the cranial border, in ISRO, they take the upper border of the palpable or visible breast tissue maximally up to the inferior edge of sternoclavicular joint. And in RTOG, they also take the clinical reference during the simulation, and plus they put the cranial border at the second rib insertion level. And in the caudal border, in ISRO and RTOG, both of the guidelines took the most caudal visible slice of the breast in the CT. And in the medial border is in ISRO lateral to the medial perforating mammary vessels, maximally up to the edge of the sternal bone. And in RTOG, it is sternal rib junction. And in, regarding the lateral border, ISRO defines it in anterior to the lateral thoracic artery, and in RTOG it is in the mid-axillary line, but it is up to the latissimus dorsi, excludes latissimus dorsi muscle. And in ISRO, the anterior border taken 5 millimeter under the skin surface, and in RTOG includes the skin. And in ISRO, the posterior border is pectoralis major, costal or intercostal muscles up to the chest wall. And in RTOG, pectoralis muscle and chest wall muscles are excluded. So we can see in this slide that here the in RTOG guideline muscles are included, and in excluded. RTOG guideline muscles are excluded, and ISRO guideline muscles they also they took up to the muscles, and this anterior border is 5 mm under the skin, and this is the mammary vessels, and this is the lateral thoracic artery which ISRO take as the lateralmost border. So before going into the guidelines of regional node delineation, I would like to point out some CT anatomy pictures and some CT anatomy points which can help the beginners to follow the guidelines. So here in this CT, we can see this is our left common carotid artery, and this is our right common carotid artery and left common carotid artery. This is left subclavian vein, this is right subclavian vein, and this is the subclavian artery, right one, and this is the left subclavian vein. And we can see that this is a branch of aorta, and this is the arch of aorta. From the arch of aorta, we have brachiocephalic artery, which divides into subclavian artery and common carotid artery. And here, this is left subclavian artery and common carotid artery, which again divides into internal and external carotid arteries. So from this anatomy picture, and this is the CT picture. So this is the left common carotid artery. Here we can spot the right common carotid artery. This is the right subclavian vein, and this is right subclavian artery, and this is left subclavian artery and left subclavian vein. So we have thyroid gland here, pectoralis major muscle here, pectoralis minor muscle here, and this is the right axillary vein. And here we can spot the left axillary vein and left axillary artery, and this is the subscapularis muscle. And here we can see the internal jugular vein, left one, and the right internal jugular vein. And this is right common carotid artery and left common carotid artery. So here again, pectoralis major muscle, minor muscle, axillary vein, and subscapularis is here. And this is the thoracodorsal vessel. This is actually the lateral border of level 1 axilla by ISRO. That's why I have shown this thoracodorsal vessel here. It actually supplies to the latissimus dorsi muscle here. And here are the anterior scalene and middle scalene muscles. Scalene muscles are important because scalene muscle will also define some points of the regional nodal irradiation. So these muscles actually originate from the transverse process of the cervical vertebrae, and anterior middle scalene muscle insert into the first rib, and the posterior one insert into the second rib. So this is the anterior scalene muscle, and this is the middle scalene muscle at the C7 vertebra level. So coming to breast cancer lymphatic drainage. So for breast cancer lymphatic drainage, first we have axillary lymph nodes. Axillary lymph nodes can be is divided into 3 levels. Level 1 is lateral to the posterior pectoralis minor, and level 2 is beneath the pectoralis minor, and level 3 is medial to the pectoralis minor. And then we have level 4 in ISRO, and RTOG have defined it as supraclavicular lymph node. So and apart from that, we have internal mammary chain, and there are small drainage to the abdominal, some abdominal lymph nodes also. So I have this. I want to point out this study. This is a study of lymphatic drainage patterns from the breast, and it was published in Annals of Surgery in 2004. So they studied in Netherlands Cancer Institute from 1997 to 2002. They studied 700 sentinel lymph node biopsy procedure patients who are clinically N0, and they found that drainage from all the quadrants. They studied all the quadrant tumors, and most of the tumors, like from upper outer quadrant, upper inner quadrant, lower outer quadrant, lower inner quadrant, and central. So almost all the tumors have almost 90% drainage to axilla. And regarding IMC, upper outer quadrant had 10% drainage to the drainage to IMC in 10% cases, and upper inner quadrant in and lower outer quadrant almost 30% cases, lower inner quadrant in 52% cases, and central quadrant had 24% cases drainage to the IMC lymph nodes. And various studies have found that rate of supraclavicular lymph node involvement in breast cancer is to the tune of 3 to 4%. And there are chances of skip metastasis in only 1 to 3% cases. So that is almost negligible. So now coming to the guideline from National Comprehensive Cancer Network regarding regional nodal radiotherapy. So regarding they have this guideline for local regional treatment of T1 to 3 N0, N0N1 and M0 disease, that is early breast cancer. So after lumpectomy and axillary staging, if there is a more than equal to 4 positive axillary lymph node, then whole breast radiation with or without boost is the category 1 recommendation. Along with that, infraclavicular, supraclavicular, internal mammary, and any part of axillary bed at risk to be irradiated. This is a category 1 recommendation. And if 1 to 3 axillary nodes are positive, then whole breast radiotherapy with or without tumor bed boost is a category 1 recommendation. But the regional nodal irradiation, they have recommended to consider strongly, but not a category 1 recommendation. And in the negative axillary node, they have recommended to do whole breast radiotherapy with regional nodal irradiation to be considered. So coming to the indications of SCF irradiation. So consensus from National Comprehensive Cancer Network, National Institute of Healthcare Excellence, and UK, and DEGRO, that is German Society of Radiation Oncology, and American College of Radiologists. The consensus indication for supraclavicular irradiation is more than equal to 4 positive axillary lymph node after axillary lymph node resection, T3 or T4 primary lesion. In inflammatory breast cancer, and 1 to 3 positive axillary lymph node with high risk factors like high grade lymphovascular invasion positive, young age, less than 10 nodes examined, more than 20% millimeter margin, and that has to be connecting with the internal memory nodal CTV. And in RTOG, it has to come up to caudal edge of clavicle head or junction of brachiocephalic axillary vein. So regarding the medial border, jugular vein is included without margin, and thyroid and common carotid artery are excluded in the SCF CTB of ISTRO. And in the RTOG, they exclude the thyroid and trachea, but include the common carotid artery. And in the lateral border, ISTRO, the lateral border of the SCF CTB is up to the anterior scalene muscle, and that has to connect to the medial border of the level 3. And in the RTOG, it is in the lateral edge of sternocleidomastoid or junction of first rib or and clavicle. Anterior border is same in both of them, that is sternocleidomastoid, and posterior border in ISTRO is pleura, and in RTOG it is anterior aspect of scalene muscle. So what are the differences in SCF CTV in ISTRO and RTOG? ISTRO limits the SCF volume to the whole subclavian vessels, and RTOG up to the inferior aspect of the cricoid. And but ISTRO acknowledge that in cases of locally advanced breast cancer, cranial border may be modified beyond the first lymph node level, and in that case 10 to 20 mm margin has to be taken from the pathological node to make the CTV. And in the medial border, there is a difference, that is ISTRO stays lateral to the common carotid artery, where RTOG includes the common carotid artery. And both these volume guidelines, that is RTOG and ISTRO, they did not take the posterior neck volume, posterior neck in their SCF CTB of supraclavicular fossa, but RADCOMP and PET Labrador guideline, they have extended the supraclavicular fossa posteriorly to the levator scapulae muscle to include the posterior triangle of the neck. So in a case of locally advanced breast cancer, where if we want to treat the posterior neck volume, then we can go by this RADCOMP or PET Labrador guideline for this supraclavicular CTB. So here we can see that this is the supraclavicular CTB in the ISTRO. So they have excluded the common carotid artery and subclavian vessels. They have followed, and the lateral border is at the medial border of the axillary level 3. And here they have included RTOG have included the common carotid artery, and rest is almost same. So regional nodal, now the indications for axillary irradiation. So the consensus indication for axillary irradiation is where there is no axillary dissection is done, or there is a inadequate axillary dissection, or sentinel lymph node positive but axillary dissection not done, or more than 50% of the lymph node are positive after axillary lymph node dissection, and if there is extensive extracapsular extension. So the volume of level 3 level 3 CTV of axilla, the cranial border ISTRO keeps it at the cranial extent of subclavian artery, whereas RTOG keeps it at the pectoralis minor insertion on the cricoid. And the caudal margin, ISTRO keeps it 5 mm caudal to the subclavian vein, where RTOG keeps it at the level of axillary vessels crossing the medial edge of pectoralis minor. And the medial border, that is in ISTRO, it is the junction of subclavian and internal jugular vein, and this is at the lateral border of the level 4, that is supraclavicular fossa. And in RTOG, the medial border is at the thoracic inlet. And the lateral border is same for both the guidelines, that is medial side of the pectoralis minor muscle. Anterior is almost same, that is the pectoralis major muscle. And posterior is in ISTRO, it is 5 mm dorsal, up to 5 mm dorsal of subclavian vein, or up to the costal intercostal muscles. And in RTOG also it is ribs and intercostal muscles. So this is the level 3 volume of the ISTRO, and this is level 3 of RTOG. And I will cite the differences later also. So in level 2 CTV, ISTRO keeps it the cranial border at the cranial extent of axillary artery, and RTOG the axillary, where axillary vessels crosses the medial edge of pectoralis minor muscle. For the caudal border, the caudal border of the pectoralis minor is taken as a caudal margin, and in RTOG, axillary vessels where crossing the lateral edge of pectoralis minor, that is taken as the caudal margin of level 2 axilla. And the medial border is same for both of them, that is medial border of the pectoralis minor. As we know that pectoralis minor divides the axillary levels. And the lateral is same, lateral border of the pectoralis minor. Anterior is almost same, that is pectoralis minor muscle. And posterior is in ISTRO up to 5 mm dorsal of axillary vein, or up to the costal intercostal muscles. And in RTOG it is ribs and intercostal muscles. So level 2 axillary CTV is almost same in both the guidelines. There is not much difference. And in the level 1, for the level 1 CTV, ISTRO, the medial border, the cranial border is medially 5 mm cranial to the axillary vein, and laterally they will go maximum up to the 1 centimeter below the edge of the femoral head. And in RTOG, it is where axillary vessels crosses lateral edge of pectoralis minor muscle. And in the caudal border, ISTRO keeps it at the level of 4 or 5th rib, and RTOG is at the pectoralis major insertion into the ribs. And the medial border, axillary level 2, lateral border, and in the RTOG, it is lateral border of pectoralis minor. And ISTRO, the lateral border is cranially up to an imaginary line between the major pectoral, that is pectoralis major muscle, and deltoid muscle, and caudally there's a imaginary line between the pectoralis major and latissimus dorsi muscle. And the medial border of latissimus dorsi muscle kept as the lateral border of the axillary level 1. And anteriorly, that is pectoralis major and minor muscles. And posteriorly for the level 1, I have already cited before that the thoracodorsal vessels are taken as the posterior margin of level 1 in ISTRO. And in RTOG, it is kept at anterior surface of subscapularis muscle. So here is the level 1 axilla in the ISTRO CTV, and this is the RTOG CTV. So we can see the differences in ISTRO and RTOG in axillary CTV. That is, in RTOG, the inferior limit of level 1 is pectoralis major insertion onto the ribs, whereas ISTRO, the inferior limit as a 4th and 5th rib. So ISTRO guideline is typically superior, is not superior. ISTRO level 1 axilla kept at a superior level than the RTOG level, and ISTRO level 1 is more anterior than RTOG. But ISTRO keeps the superior border at the level 1 of axilla at 1 centimeter below the head of humerus to avoid irradiating the humeral head. And ISTRO volume of level 3 is inferior, kept at an inferior level than RTOG. So we can see that level 3 ISTRO is kept at a superior level, and here also level 1 ISTRO is at the superior level but below the humeral head. So for the internal mammary node irradiation, the consensus from consensus indication from all the guidelines are central and medial tumor with positive axillary lymph node, and sentinel lymph node in internal mammary, sentinel lymph node positive in internal mammary chain, and there is a sentinel lymph node positive in axilla with drainage to IMN. Then we have to irradiate the internal mammary nodes. So for the delineation of internal mammary lymph nodes, ESTRO keeps the caudal cranial border at the caudal limit of SCF. So there is no gap between the SCF volume and the internal mammary nodal volume. Whereas RTOG keep it at the medial superior aspect of medial first rib. And in the caudal border, ESTRO keeps it up to the cranial side of fourth rib, but fifth rib can also be in but RTOG, this is kept at cranial aspect of fourth rib. And the medial border, that is ESTRO takes a 5 mm margin around the internal mammary vessels, whereas RTOG, they enclose the internal mammary vessels, but no margin is suggested. And in ESTRO, there's a lateral border kept at 5 mm margin from internal mammary vessels, and there's an anterior limit of the vascular area, and posteriorly it's pleura. So you can say ISRO volume, ISRO IMN volume is continuous with the zona cavity of the volume, whereas RTOG stops caudally at the first rib, and inferiorly ISRO permits using the cranial side of the fifth rib also in select cases, while RTOG uses cranial side of fourth rib. And ISRO recommends a 5 mm margin around the vessels, while RTOG uses the vessels as surrogate. So we can see here that this is the RTOG volume, where this is the internal mammary nodal volume, and this is the SCF volume, and there is a gap between it. But in the ISTRO, actually there is no gap between the SCF volume and internal mammary nodal volume. And this is the margin around the vessel in ISTRO, and the RTOG actually keep the vessel as surrogate and delineate the internal mammary chain. So after the delineation of the whole breast and the axillary nodes, now I have come to the lumpectomy boost. So regarding lumpectomy boost, first I have to cite this study. This is the randomized trial by EORTC. They have published the 10-year results and now 20-year results also in 2015. So they took 5,318 women post breast conservation surgery and 50 gray radiation to whole breast. They randomized them to 16 gray boost or no boost. And after the median follow-up of 17.8 years, they have shown that there is a cumulative local recurrence rate at 20 years. It is 16.4% versus 12%. So there is a 4% absolute improvement in local control when we add boost to the lumpectomy cavity, but there was no difference in overall survival. So in this study, there is another significant point, that is the curve of cumulative incidence of local recurrence rate is more separated in the younger patients, that is less than 40 years, but it is like the curve, the separation decreases with the age, and they have concluded that though lumpectomy boost can decrease the ipsilateral breast cancer recurrence, but they have not recommended it for, they concluded that it can be avoided for more than 60-year age group. Now, among this EORTC boost versus no boost trial, they have segregated 251 patients who had microscopically incomplete excision. So then they randomized these patients to 10 gray boost versus 26 gray boost, and at after a 10-year and 11.3-year median follow-up, they published the 10-year results in the Green Journal in 2009. So there was no difference in local recurrence rate or overall survival, and there was more fibrosis in 26 gray arm. So we can conclude that 10 to 16 gray dose in 5 to 8 fractions for lumpectomy boost is sufficient, and beyond that it will not help. So lumpectomy of the boost cavity can be done either by electron beam or by interstitial brachytherapy. So I have cited here some studies, and these studies actually reviewed the results from ipsilateral breast tumor recurrence and 10-year disease survival from the for electron beam boost and brachytherapy boost, and they have shown that there is no difference in the 10-year disease survival and lateral breast tumor recurrence if we treat these patients, if we boost these patients with either electron beam or interstitial brachytherapy. So they have comparable results. And some centers also use photon beam to boost by 3D CRT or IMRT. So regarding delineation of the lumpectomy boost cavity, so we have a guideline from RTOG that a GTV lump has to be delineated as a lumpectomy bed as apparent in planning image that should include the excision cavity volume, architectural distortion, lumpectomy scar, seroma if there is any, and surgical clips has to be included in the GTV of the lumpectomy boost. And for CTV, we have to take 1 to 1.5 centimeter margin around the GTV, and but we have to exclude the pectoralis muscle and all the chest wall muscles and ribs. For the PTV, we have to take a 0.5 centimeter margin around the CTV if we are using IGRT, and if we are not using IGRT, then 1 centimeter margin has to be taken in all direction around the CTV, but heart has to be excluded. So here is the lumpectomy boost CTV, where a seroma is included in the lumpectomy boost volume, and surgical clips are also like included. So whatever planning, whatever architectural distortion also visible in the planning image has to be taken inside the lumpectomy boost volume. So what are the practical considerations of lumpectomy boost delineation? So intraoperative placement of surgical clips in lumpectomy cavity is unnecessary, and surgical clips should be placed in couples so that if any migration is there, we can detect it in the planning CT. And surgical scar based delineation may fail in almost 60% cases, and that is shown in a study published in Red Journal in 2006. And intraoperatively placed surgical clips can reduce the intra-observer variation significantly. And 4 clips, if we ask that how many clips has to be put, 4 clips are effective and sufficient for reproducible delineation. And there is also another consideration that after whole breast radiotherapy, if we do the boost, then whole breast irradiation can change the volume of tumor bed cavity significantly. So we have to take that also into consideration. Now coming to the dose and fractionation of the early breast cancer radiotherapy. So we have conventional fractionation, that is 45 to 50 gray to whole breast and regional nodes with 1.8 to 2 gray per fraction and 5 fractions per week. Then we have start A protocol, that is 41.6 gray or 39 gray in 13 fraction over 5 weeks. And then we have start B protocol, that is 40 gray in 15 fractions over 3 weeks. Or we can do it also with APBI, that is APBI follows extreme hypofractionation like 30 gray in 5 fractions. Or APBI can be done with brachytherapy also, and there are other measures. I will not go into the APBI details in this discussion. And for dose fractionation, we have this UK trial, this randomized trial from UK, that is UK standardization of breast radiotherapy trials for radiotherapy hypofractionation for treatment of early breast cancer. So they published their 10-year results in Lancet Oncology 2013. So in START A trial, they treated these patients from 1999 to 2002, and they randomized 2,236 women post MRM or breast cancer conservation surgery. PT1 to 3A, N0 to 1, and M0 patients. So they randomized them to either 50 gray in 25 fractions versus 41.6 or 39 gray in 13 fractions over 5 weeks. And median follow-up was 9.3 years, but they showed that there is no difference in loco-regional recurrence if we treat with the conventional fractionation or the hypofractionation. But they showed that there is less normal tissue toxicity in the 39 gray group. And in the START B trial, it was also patients were treated from 1999 to 2002, and they randomized 2,215 patients post MRM or BCS, randomized to 50 gray in 25 fractions over 5 weeks versus 40 gray in 15 fractions over 3 weeks. So median follow-up was 9.9 years. They also showed that there is no difference in loco-regional recurrence rate if we treat those patients with the conventional radiotherapy or hypofractionation, and normal tissue toxicity was less in 40 gray group. So there is this evidence-based guideline from ASTRO. It was published in Practical Radiation Oncology Journal 2018 May-June issue, where ASTRO appointed a task force to answer 5 key questions on dose fractionation for whole breast irradiation, indication and fractionation of tumor bed boost, and treatment planning techniques. So they concluded that preferred dose fractionation for whole breast irradiation was 40 gray in 15 fraction or 42.5 gray in 16 fraction. So we can say that these hypofractionation schedules are at least as good as the conventional fractionation in terms of loco-regional recurrence rate and lead toxicities. So coming to the OAR constraints. So for OAR constraints, I would like to cite these studies of heart toxicity after radiotherapy. So we have this study by Derby et al. Published in 2013. It was a retrospective population-based case control study where they found that per 1 gray increase in mean heart dose, there will be a 7.4% increase in relative risk of major coronary events in 20 years. Then this Vanden Bogart et al. Review that was published in 2017. It was also a retrospective study, and they showed that per 1 gray increase in mean heart dose, there is a 16.5% increase in cumulative incidence of acute coronary events within 9 years post radiotherapy. And this Carr et al. Published in 2005, it was a retrospective analysis, and they also showed that if we keep the whole heart dose more than equal to 2.8 gray and dose to the 5% of heart is more than equal to 12.9 gray, then there is a significant increase in coronary heart disease in 22.5 years. The relative risk was 1.54. So the mortality of the heart with radiation is severe. So RTOG has given some guidelines for OAR constraints for conventional fractionation. So RTOG has given constraints for ipsilateral lung, contralateral breast, and heart. So for ipsilateral lung, V20, volume receiving 20 gray, has to be less than equal to 15%, and volume receiving 10 gray has to be less than equal to 35%, and volume receiving 5 gray has to be less than equal to 50%. And the contralateral lung, volume receiving 10 gray should be less than equal to 10%. And for the contralateral breast, maximum dose, that is dose to 0.03 cc, should be less than equal to 3.1 gray, and dose to 5% of contralateral breast should be less than equal to 1.86 gray. And for the heart, dose to 5% of heart should be less than equal to 20 gray. Volume receiving 10 gray should be less than 10% in right breast cancer radiotherapy, and less than equal to 30% in left breast cancer radiotherapy. And mean heart dose should be kept at less than 4 gray. And there are some variations also given that can be accepted. Now, as we have seen and discussed the guidelines from ISRO and RTOG, we have some pattern of failure studies which have studied these guidelines, and they have validated and they have shown their pattern of failure data. So we have this Brown et al. Study published in 2015. They evaluated SCF volume for the RTOG guideline, and they found that RTOG failed to cover supracortical lymph node mets in 41% cases. And the commonest site of geographical miss was junction of thyroid and cricoid, posterolateral SCF, and lateral low SCF. Then Jing et al. 2015, they also evaluated SCF volume by RTOG, and they observed that RTOG covered almost 2/3 of supracortical lymph node mets and could not cover 1/3 of the mets. And most common site of geographical miss was posterolateral part of the SCF. Reed et al. 2008, they studied varied guidelines, various guidelines for supraclavicular fossa CTV, and they observed that posterior region of SCF was a potential site of geographical miss. And then this study by Jetva et al. 2017, they studied internal mammary nodal CTV by RTOG guideline, and they found that most of the internal mammary nodal mets were in the first 3 intercostal spaces, and RTOG covered 50% only. And incremental expansion around the IMN vessels significantly improved the coverage of the internal mammary nodal volume. Now we have this Gentile et al. Study 2015 that evaluated axilla by RTOG guideline, and they found they actually evaluated tumor extension on the pre-treatment CT scan, and they found that more than 80% failure was at the cranial and anterior border of level 1, and for the level 2 and 3, most failures were at the caudal border. And now Chang et al. Published in 2016, they compared and studied both the guidelines, ISRO and RTOG, for the multiple sites like axilla SCF and multiples and IMN. And they found that there was a 14% local regional recurrence rate outside the ISRO, but inside the RTOG. But ISRO covered 96.4% of the CTVs in PT122 PN01, that is early breast cancer, and METs outside the level 3 and level 4 ISRO CTV was only 3.6%. So like ISRO was covering the CTVs in early breast cancer very well. And then this Chang et al. Another study, it was multi-institutional, published in 2017. They also evaluated ISRO and RTOG guideline for multiple sites, and they found that metastasis outside ISRO volume but inside RTOG volume was 7.3%, whereas outside RTOG volume was 9%. And they found that most vulnerable site of geographical miss was pectoralis muscle, cranial to supraclavicular fossa, and posterolateral to supraclavicular fossa. But they showed that 20% of supraclavicular mets were outside both the ISRO and RTOG. So might be posterior neck volume should be, we should consider where making a SCF CTV. Now we have this review and comparison of these pattern of failure studies and these guidelines from ISRO and RTOG. So we have this article that is Contouring Consensus Guidelines in Breast Cancer Radiotherapy Comparison and Systematic Review of Patterns of Failure. It was published in Journal of Medical Imaging and Radiation Oncology 2019. So they compared all the guidelines, all 4 guidelines they compared, and discussed the differences in patterns of differences and the patterns of failure studies, which I mentioned. And all studies were retrospective, and they found that all studies were retrospective and there was potential bias regarding patient clinical incomplete patient clinical records and small population size. Most studies did not specify which guideline they actually used during the treatment of the patient, and there were variability in the applications between the institutions and application of the guidelines between the institutions and individuals. So they concluded that there are small but clinically significant differences between these guidelines, and more generous CTB may be recommended for patients with multiple node, high risk, or more locally advanced at presentation. Then we have this comparison of nodal target volume definition in breast cancer radiotherapy according to RTOG versus ISTRO atlases. It is a review from Transatlantic Radiation Oncology Network, and it was published in 2020 Red Journal, April issue. And they found that they compared 3 guidelines, that is RTOG, ISTRO, and RADCOM guideline. And they found that most of the mapping studies, studies for pattern of failure, were retrospective and subject to selection and reporting biases. And they also pointed out that impact of fractionation and treatment techniques were not addressed in these pattern of failure studies. So to conclude, TRON has, like Transatlantic Radiation Oncology Network, concluded that for low regional risk patients, that is patients of T1 to 2 N0 post BCS patients, they can be safely treated with ISTRO guideline. And for more advanced, like high regional risk patients, that is clinical T3, T4, N1, N2. These patients should be treated with RTOG guideline, or RADCOM can be used, that is a trial version of RTOG. And for very high risk patients for regional failure, those are clinically N3 nodes, those patients should be treated with RTOG and RADCOM. And in these patients, posterior neck should be included, and for IMN, 4th and 5th spaces should be included. So what are the take-home messages for my discussion? Those are: radiotherapy improves local control and reduces breast cancer mortality in post-surgery patients. Lumpectomy boost prevents ipsilateral breast cancer recurrence. 40 gray 15 fraction is at least as good as 50 gray 25 fractions in terms of local control and late effects. ISTRO and RTOG guidelines have small but clinically significant differences. For early stage breast cancer, ISTRO guidelines give appropriate coverage and reduces the OAR doses. But for high risk and locally advanced breast cancer, RTOG should be followed. And for supraclavicular foci and internal memory nodal contouring, more generous CTBs can be taken in case-to-case basis. I have to acknowledge the constant inspiration and support from Dr. Rajesh Agarwal sir, director of my hospital, and his oncosurgeon, and Dr. Anu Tiwari ma'am. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Mondal, for such a stimulating presentation. And we have some questions in the chat box. So can you once more explain about the level 3 axillary lymph nodes, especially the cranial border?
Okay. So let me go back to the slides. So for level 3, the cranial extension was actually, we have to follow the subclavian artery up to its cranial extent by ISTRO. And RTOG, the pectoralis minor insertion on the cricoid, was kept at the cranial border of the axilla, level 3. And for the caudal, we have to follow the subclavian vein, and we have to go 5 mm caudal to the subclavian vein. And in the RTOG, it was kept at the axillary vessels where it is crossing the medial edge of the pectoralis minor. And for the medial border, we have to go in the ISTRO till the junction of subclavian and internal jugular vein, and in the RTOG it was thoracic inlet, and for the lateral border it was medial side of pectoralis minor muscle, and it was same in the RTOG also, and anterior border is also same in the RTOG and istro, and for the posterior also up to the costal and intercostal muscles, so it is same in RTOG and istro.
Thank you. Thank you. We have one more question by Dr. Hemant. It is a very interesting question on necessity of boost in hypofractionated regimens. So is it necessary in every treatment? And if boost has to be given, what modality will you prefer? Like you want to give it with electrons, photons, conventional fractionation, or the boost volume also be given with hypofractionation?
So when we are going for the boost, I will definitely prefer electron beam. But where in a setup where interstitial brachytherapy is available, they can also use interstitial brachytherapy. And regarding hyperfractionation also, as we can see that the late effects are same, at least same as the conventional fractionation in hyperfractionation also. So we can add the boost in a like 10 to 16 gray in 5 to 8 fraction after the hyperfractionation also.
Yes. Yesterday I was reading about the fast forward trial, and in that they have given like boost in young patients less than 40 years, and
Yes.
in more than 40 years when there is grade 3 or LVSI, the high risk factors are present, then they were giving boost in hypofractionated regime, and the boost was given with conventional fractionation, what
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
And Dr. Hemant has one more question, that are these guidelines applicable for prone breast also? Or is there any separate guidelines for target delineation and prone position?
I don't think there is any separate guideline for target delineation in prone breast, but these regional CTVs are same, has to be delineated in the same way in supine or prone, I believe.
It is difficult to delineate nodal,
No.
especially axilla and prone breast.
Yeah.
The axillary level 3, Dr. Debanjan want to know whether it is coracoid process of scapula or it is cricoid.
Pectoralis, this is
Pectoralis minor insertion into
cricoid.
cricoid. Okay. Okay. He's saying that there is probably a corrected version of RTOG guideline, and it states that it is coracoid process instead of cricoid. Dr. Debanjan, you can also unmute yourself and can ask.
Yeah.
Would you like to do? Dr. Priya has a comment that prone position is indicated if we intend to treat nodes. Do you want to comment upon it, Dr. Dulal?
Yeah, considering that the regional nodal irradiation is like delineation and all are difficult in prone position. So we can think of like if we want to treat the breast only, then we can put the patient in a prone position. Or if we have to treat the axilla and regional nodes, then we can put plan the patient in a supine position. I would like I would prefer in supine position if I have to treat a patient for regional nodal irradiation.
Okay. Is there any more question? Anyone can ask, can unmute and ask. Maybe we can wait for 2-3 more minutes for people to post. Okay, we have one more question from Dr. Priya, that open and closed cavity boost delineation and also in oncoplasty settings.
I'm not clear with the question.
I think she wanted to ask that how will you delineate the boost volume in oncoplasty settings? In
oncoplasty setting also, the surgical clips will be the surgeon has to put the surgical clips, and we have to see the cavity from the planning image and the previous image, pre-treatment images, and we have to delineate the cavity the same way. If there is any seroma is there, and if there is any architectural distortion in the cavity, we have to delineate whole of the cavity as a GTV, and then we have to take the CTV and PTV. Is the same way in the oncoplastic surgery also.
So she's saying that because in most of the cases there is reconstruction and cavity is not visible. So do you find like any difficulty?
Surgical clips should be there. If the clips are not placed, then it will be difficult. Then even in oncoplastic surgery, there will be no scar also. So we can't like have any clue where the tumor was. So surgeon has to put a surgical clip if we want to go for it should be decided in the tumor board pre-treatment that they will do oncoplastic surgery, and we have to do the boost of the cavity. So they have to put surgical clips so that we can delineate the cavity.
Yeah, it is a very challenging situation.
Yeah.
Thank you. So if there is no more questions, maybe we can, Dr. Rashi, is she there? We'll wait for 2 more minutes to post to see for any questions.
I think Dr. Bharti, if all the questions are completed, we can call it off.
Okay, ma'am.
We shall wind up the meeting.
Sure, ma'am. So thank you all the participants for joining us this Sunday morning, and thank you UB Heroicon organizers for organizing this event.
Thank you, Dr. Dular, for a very nice presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. I think Rashi is not here. She needs to end this meeting. I don't know. Dular, you can do that. Just end the meeting for everybody.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
And for all, it will come.
Okay, I'm doing, ma'am.
It is